Hi everybody, it is April and I am back with another tutorial. This time I'm going to go over some of the features in the send function. I know with this new software that a friend of mine was having issues, first of all, trying to find where you send your project to your machine. It used to be an icon and now it is a word. It actually does have a picture next to it, but it's a little confusing. So I just thought I would go over where that send key is, and then they've also made some changes to what the menu and the window, I guess, look like since they came out with version 4.1. I actually think I like the menu with version 4.1 better, but again, it's a little different, so I thought I would just quickly go over what the different menu options are and where you can find them. So I have this die cut on my screen, and I want to do two different things. I want to cut it out two different ways, actually three different ways. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave the images like this. And then I'm going to go to the upper right hand corner, and that's where my send button is. And I'm going to click send. Now, if you see, this particular cut is all dark red. So that means that the whole thing will be cut out. This image, the outside is dark red, but the inside is kind of a dull, faded red. And that means that if I sent this to my silhouette right now, that image wouldn't cut out. So I'm going to click on that image, and here you can see in the menu where it says cut edge instead of cut. So I'm going to click cut, and magically my image will be cut out. So I've run into that several times where part of my image looks dark red and the other doesn't look dark red. So just be a little patient, click on the image, and then see if you can use one of these cut, no cut, and cut edge menu options to get your whole image to cut out. Now, I don't even remember. I do remember that my blade used to be over here, that what my depth of my blade should be, and it took me a while to find it. So I'm really glad that they moved that blade setting up here, because I am a picture person. I'm sure somewhere it tells me what my blade should be set on, and I do have a sorry, blasphemy. I have a Silhouette Cameo 1 and a Silhouette Cameo 2. I do not have a 3, so I always have a ratchet blade, and therefore I have to set my blade depth. So also across the top are some functions that in version 2 of the Silhouette software used to be a menu down here, and that has changed. Excuse me. So the first menu is the simple menu, and that's the first thing I wanted to do, was to go over just a simple cut where you want to cut everything that is on your mat and how to make sure that everything on your mat is going to be cut. Here's your material, which is a drop down. Oh look, I can scroll. Yay! Before, at one point I couldn't scroll up and down using my mouse. I had to use the arrows on the sidebar with my mouse. So here are all the options that you have, and then of course you still got some options that you can define yourself, and you can add new material types. For this particular option, I want textured heavy cardstock, which is going to be a blade depth of 7. I tend to turn my speed down, so what you see when you choose this option for your material may not be what you see in my options, because it seems to save what changes you make to the different materials, which I find very helpful. And then my action is cut, and you can also score, and you can use your sketch pens. I'm going to cut, and then here my only option is a ratchet blade. And we already went over the no cut cut and cut edge. We have a speed, which I have turned down. My die cut is pretty intricate, so I want to turn the speed down. And my force, I think I turned it up since my cardstock is thicker. Passes, that's how many times you want to cut out your image. Say you want to go twice because your cardstock is very thick, then you would up that here. I don't even know what those are actually. Material settings. So we're getting into some heavy duty stuff over here, and I'm not going to go through that right now. Okay, down at the bottom here you still have your test cut. I used to think a test cut was for sissies. I no longer think that because I cut out vinyl, and I don't want to ruin a whole sheet of vinyl. Paper, I have paper that will last me a lifetime. Vinyl, not so much. So this feature works just the way it did before. And here's your send to send it to the silhouette. Alright, so now we're going to go back to design. And this time I'm going to color fill. Say I don't want these both cut out in the same color. I want them cut out in two different colors, but I don't want to have to drag one off the mat, drag it back on the mat. That gets a little tedious. So I'm going to pick two different colors of green, and this one's pretty bright, but that's okay. It gets my point across. I'm going to go back to the send menu, and actually I can drag those on top of each other so that I cut out of my paper in the upper left hand corner. Instead of staying on the simple option, I am going to go to the fill option, and that is going to allow me to choose just one of my items to cut. And if I drag him over, you can see this is what's going to be left behind, and this, because it's got that yellow look, is what is going to be cut out. I'm going to put him back over there. So then everything else is the same. Here is my material. Here's my cut. I have to do the drop down. Here is my ratchet blade. It just kind of scooches everything down a bit. Here's my blade depth, speed, force, blah blah blah, and test cut. And in order to cut that out, I would hit send. Then once the first image was cut out, I would uncheck the green that cut previously. I would check the green that I need to cut out because I haven't cut it out yet. And then I would hit send again. So let's go back to design for one more little feature. I'm going to remove the color. And if you notice, the features up here that I am most likely to use show up when I choose an image. So here I haven't chosen an image. I do still get the color fill option, and that's probably the line option. But once I pick an image, once I select it, then I get all kinds of options up here, and that makes it nice because sometimes digging through these icons and these menu items, since I'm not terribly familiar with the software yet, it gets a little tedious. Alright, so this one's green. I'm going to get no color. So then I'm going to come back to this die cut, and I'm going to drop this menu down, and this is my line color. So I'm going to pick a blue. I'm going to make him a darker blue. Why it's a him, I don't know. And I'm going to make that one kind of a purple. I'm going to go back to my send menu. My fill, if you notice, doesn't really have anything in it. It does go back to where I chose to cut out before. I can go to my simple. Of course, my simple is going to cut both of these out. No problem. Now I'm going to go to my line color. And I guess it's just personal preference. Maybe there are times where you'd rather use your line color. Maybe lining these up, you get a better idea of what you're going to be cutting out and how well it layers with one another. This works much like the fill. I'm going to uncheck the no color and the darker blue. This one image highlights with the darker purple. That means that is the image that is going to be cut out. And again, everything at the bottom remains the same. So I would hit send, and then once that cut out, I would unclick the periwinkle, I guess is really the color, and click the dark blue and cut that out. This just keeps you from having to drag and move your images around. So here, I can't cut one on top of the other because that would kind of defeat the purpose. If I want these to be two different colors, then I could scoot him over and have cardstock on one side of my mat in one color and the other color on the other side of my mat. I tend to use 8.5 by 11 or 12 by 12 cardstock. So that means if I don't use the fill or the line color in order to cut out my image, then I would have to drag this off of my mat, cut this out, then drag this back on my mat, drag this image off my mat. With these two images, it doesn't get to be tedious, but when you have different SVG files or cut files that have multiple colors in them, this is very helpful in order to reduce the amount of time you spend dragging things off your mat and moving them back. I hope this was helpful. Let me know if there is anything you've been struggling with on your new design, new version of Silhouette. It's version, I guess it's version 3. When you go out to do your update of your software, you'll see a version number that starts with 4, but it's Silhouette version 3. And you even notice up here it says Studio 3. Everyone have a great day. If you want more videos like this, please click subscribe. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. I will be back with another tutorial soon.